go ahead and use the recording. And you all have to do your approval on that one. And then we've got just a couple more seconds and then I'll start. Okay, so what did you think about your homework assignment? What'd you find?
I had a fabulous time. I just was having so much fun, especially with the water ones. I just kept looking around for stuff to use. I really had fun with that.
Good, 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 good. What else did you find with the homework assignment? Hey, Rhonda.
Hi.
Welcome. So what else did you find with the homework assignment?
Well, it took a lot of experimenting to see what would work. But it was fun.
Yeah, it does take a lot of experimenting to see what will work. Yes. Sarah, you were going to say something.
Yes, I was still muted. That with the stacking, because my angle, I wasn't doing like front to back or side to side. I chose to do top down, front looking from a straight down viewpoint.
Huh?
And so I had a lot of trouble keeping track of where I was going with my focus. I think it would have been easier if I had maybe done a different angle. So I was going side to side or front to back, but going something that was a little spherical, going from top down.
Mhm.
It's like, where am I in my focus?
Yeah. Good. What else? Anybody else? What'd you find in your homework?
I found something that I think is an anomaly or an artifact in the Photoshop focus stacking program. And I'll show it to you because I was going to redo my stack. Then I thought, no, this is something that everybody needs to see just in case it's a problem so that they're aware of it. So I left it in.
Good.
And I have well, I'll talk about it when we get there.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
know if you can hear me. Can you hear me, Kathy?
Yeah.
Okay. It was fun. I tried many things though, because I wasn't happy with this. I wasn't happy with that. And then I tried to make your challenge and there was no way I was going to do it. So I sent you something else and you'll see that.
Okay. Very good. Okay. Well, that's pretty much what I want. I want to challenge you. I want to, make you step out of your comfort zone just a little bit, because that's what we're doing in these master classes. And so hopefully it's a little bit hard. And I also, something that I have learned over the years is that when I get what I call in the studio. So I get in the studio and I've got all my stuff set up and I've got all my gadgets holding all of my things and I'm working on stuff and I can't get it to work. And it's that trial and error and trial and error and trial and error. And then it finally works. And that's when I learn it. That's when it sticks in my head, the same as we do with children's education, that once we, they have to be frustrated, they have to be challenged. And once they get past that frustration level is when they really learn. So I just find I do the same thing. I'm working on it, walk away from it, work on it. And then before I know it, I've really, really learned something, lots of stuff. And maybe not just what the assignment was. So I hope you see that the advantage in doing this. Okay, so I am going to start showing your homework to you, and I'm going to skip by Lexi right now in case she comes in just a little bit later on us, because I want to show her something on her. So Marty, I will go to you first on your homework assignment, and then okay.
I think I was doing in camera focus stacking. That was my goal. And that's what I was doing. So I think it worked. I don't know if I don't know.
I mean,
Because,
it's a pretty small flower and it looks pretty good.
good.
Yeah.
So I did 7. I set it for 7 shots. And I also I tried it again where I just moved the focus point around, and like she said, I couldn't keep up with it either where I was. So I like the in-camera focus stacking. And then I took it into Photoshop, and it was exciting to get to do a new thing on Photoshop.
And Marty, which camera are you using?
I'm using the Z6 II.
Z6 II, so that's in-camera focus stacking.
Mhm.
So it did pretty good.
I think so. And that's the
Mm.
same thing. I wasn't sure if I was doing it right, so I tried it with something else too.
Yeah.
So
I think it looks good.
it's not quite as clear.
And then this is in-camera stacking,
Uh-huh.
this one too.
Or maybe that's one that I tried to do. I don't remember exactly.
Let me see what if this says.
That one, is that the second one?
That's the second one.
Yeah. That's probably that one doesn't look as sharp at all.
Yeah, this is your second one according to this.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that we've got a little bit of sharpness back in here. And but yeah, it didn't have any sharpness in here. Second photo, this must have been where you were actually moving the focus. You think, Marty?
No, I still think it was a focus stack trial.
Or focus stack, but was it in camera?
I mean,
stack
in
or-
camera.
In
in
camera
camera.
focus stack.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because this one's it looks like we're going all the way through. So we've got some good focus stacking going on there. So that one looks pretty good.
Good.
And as you
Oh, are you hand holding or are you on a tripod?
Tripod.
Do
With
you have-
natural light, we have a big plate glass window, so
Uh-huh.
it was all natural light.
My problem's I'm gonna need a new ball head. I don't have the proper head to keep it, steady and balanced, I think is gonna be my problem.
Rhonda, instead of buying a new ball head, maybe you just buy a new tripod and look at the MeFoto, MEFOTO Globetrotter Classic.
Is that it all comes together?
All comes together.
Oh,
Yes, plate, everything, all the ball head, the legs, everything all comes together. It's really good.
okay.
What's it called? The Globetrotter?
It's the MeFoto, MEFOTO Globetrotter,
Okay,
and it's the Globetrotter Classic.
classic.
Because I have a small MeFoto and I had trouble. It couldn't handle the heavier lenses with my
Yeah.
DSLR.
Right.
So
That's
I went and bought another kind. I have so many tripods,
I know.
That's why I
like
like
shoes in my closet.
That's why I like the MeFoto Globetrotter Classic.
Okay,
Classic.
okay.
And
Thank
I also have the carbon fiber, not the aluminum.
Right.
It costs $319 and you can get it at Best Buy, or you can just order it anywhere. And it comes in multiple colors as well.
And how much weight can it handle the longer lenses, the 70
Yeah.
to 200? Okay.
Yeah, it can handle the 100 to 400, 100 to 500.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't walk away from it, but it'll hold it.
Right. Okay. Without, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good tripod, very good tripod, and it weighs 3 pounds and it folds up to 1.5 feet.
Oh, wow. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Good tripod. And then here's your water.
nice.
bottles. Yeah,
And I wasn't sure if I was doing it right. I looked it up and read about it, and it was very fascinating that they said that it cleans the little tiny hairs on the leaves of plants so that photosynthesis can be more efficient. I thought that was really cool,
yeah,
very interesting.
very good.
But I didn't know if I was doing it. I don't know if it was,
You did, you
if I
did.
got the principle.
It's
So
interesting.
that's why I turned in so many. I was like, I'll try different stuff.
It's okay. It's interesting too, just from a biologic point of view, how the water drips down and then comes and forms in these little pools.
Mhm.
So that's kind of neat. Yeah, yeah, you did right. You
But
pulled-
that's why I sent so many, was to
Oh,
see.
nice.
And then here you go on this one, and you can see how these will just pool right up there on top of.
Uh-huh.
Now, was that, did you squirt that?
I actually used a syringe.
Oh, okay.
And the syringe is not a bad idea. If you squirt, then eventually the leaf will just get totally wet and nothing happens. But if you put little strategic drops of water, then that's when it works a little bit better.
And there it is inside that plant,
Yeah,
the flower. But that's why I took so many of those pictures, because I
Sure.
wasn't sure if I was getting a pattern.
yeah.
So
And then your water drops on this one.
now this I really enjoyed.
Good. And then here's your water drop on glass.
Oh, that's
Oh, nice.
That is really cool wrapping paper that I got at the Container Store a long time ago, and it has a lot of ink in it. It almost smells weird because it's got so much ink, but it's a gorgeous pattern. And I was just so pleased the way this turned out, because that's exactly what the wrapping paper looks.
Very good.
It's
Very
fun.
Yeah. And this is one too, where you could focus stack to get those drops even more. So you could focus stack on the top of the drop and move all the way down the drop, and then get even more detail in those
I'll
drops.
try that.
Okay.
That is pretty wrapping paper though. It's pretty background there.
So that's you can see it in there too.
Very good. Very good. This is another one flat to the film plane. Remember that? So you can see the drop off in the film
Mhm.
plane right through here. So that
Mhm.
flat to the film plane, making sure that camera is absolutely parallel to the piece of glass. It's pretty.
And that's the M&Ms.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and once again, you could focus stack on that big bubble right there, or that big water drop right there. It's pretty all the way through. There's your M&Ms.
Yep.
Neat.
You see how it's amazing that it's a 300, not 300, it's a 180-degree field of view.
Mhm.
So it shows where you run off your M&Ms right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, that looks good. You did a good job.
I had enjoyed myself. It was fun.
Good, good, good. And frustrating and challenging, but at the same time, fun to do. And then Lexi, I've got you here, so I'm going to go ahead and click on to your homework. And
Wow.
then here are Lexi's.
That worked
And
out.
Lexi, I recropped this for you. I saw that you cropped it, but you cropped off this bubble right here. So it might look a little different than what you sent to me, but I recropped it for you. And you're muted on there if you've got any comments. You got any comments on doing this assignment, Lexi? No? Okay. Okay. So she did, you can see her bubble through there. And she's apparently really nice and flat to the film plane because there's only a little bit of fall off right there.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, good job. And you see how hard it is to keep the lights out of the bubbles? You all have probably, or the water drops, you probably already figured that one out. And then she's getting really big bubbles on this one, big drops. Now, this is an F32. That's why she's got so much depth of field on there. So the whole drop is in focus, not falling off too much at all. But then F32 gives a little bit too much depth of field. So it might have been better even at an F16 or something. That's where that depth of field preview button that we talked about is a nice little handy gadget to use. Very pretty. And then Lexi, here's your rose with the water drops on it. And the rose is a classic for how it forms those beautiful balls of water on it.
We still have a rose outside, so we might be able to see if we can plant it or something, because it's one that we got. So we'll see if it's something we can plant, because then we can never plant. And our yard has nothing in it. We cannot keep plants alive.
Oh, bad soil. So here you see the lovely water structure there. And then we got a couple more bubbles from Lexi. There's that flower, if you all remember from last week when I sent you the recording, here's that flower that Lexi was trying to work on outside. And then here's more water drops. Good depth of field here, Lexi, because we can't really see what's in the background, but we can see it once it's in the water drop. So good job on that one. This is one too where you could go through with a paper towel and clean up all of those little stray drops of water. Just clean it up just a bit. And then I like this one with your butterflies.
That's really nice.
Yeah. So you did a good job on that one. So we can see the butterflies in that display through that water drop. Did a good job on that one. And then Lexi said that she had some trouble stacking.
Yeah, I can like stack the weevil.
So I thought I would show you all how to do the stacking, just do a demonstration on it. So I'm in Bridge right now, but it's the same thing if you're in Lightroom. You're going to go up here to photo if you're in Lightroom, and you're going to edit in, and you're going to edit in, and you're going to edit in Photoshop.
I just have an Adobe Lightroom. I don't have Adobe Lightroom Classic, if that's any different.
It'll do the same thing. It'll do the same thing. So I've highlighted all of these, and then I'm going to go, since I'm in Bridge, I'm going to go to Tool, and I'm going to go to Photoshop, and then I'm going to go to Load into Photoshop Layers right there. And so that's where we load into layers. And then when I click save, or when I click that button, you notice down on the bottom of my screen, it's opening up Photoshop. And you just have to wait. And by the way, if your Photoshop version is not the same version as your Bridge or your Lightroom, it won't open. So they all got to be the same version, and otherwise they won't open. And then I'm going to talk for just a second, because it's going to open each one of those weevils that Lexi took into a layer. And then over here on the right-hand side.
Hey, come here. No, come here.
Over here on the right-hand side, you can see each one of the layers. And then I'm going to go click, and I'm going to highlight all the layers. Then I'm going to go to Edit, Align, Auto Align. And then under Auto, you just tell it okay.
What do those other things do?
There, if we're making a panoramic, and they would stretch them out. So they would be used if we were doing panoramic photos.
Which one of those would you select for panoramic?
Sometimes you have to figure out which one you like. I like the one that's more aligned. So Lexi, notice, because you were either moving the camera or you were not nice and solid on the tripod. See how each one of the photos has a little overlap, but it's aligned them. And now you have to go in there, don't fix anything, just leave it like this, and do an auto blend, edit, auto blend. And when you do edit, auto blend, we want to stack. So the panoramic would be here where we were blending them across, but the stack is what we want. And then also, if you want to, you can do content aware fill on transparent areas, which means it just fills in transparent areas. But I'm going to leave that unset for right now and then tell it okay. And there's your stack. So now you've got this great detail. That moves it too big. You've got this great detail on this weevil. Look at these little hairs down in here. You got this great detail on it with that photo stack. And then the last thing that you do is a layer flatten. And then you're going to have to crop that stuff out of there, of course. And then you do a simple file save as and put it back in the original folder. Got that one? Yeah. And then here's the next one that Lexi did. And this is, I'm going to do the same thing. No, sorry, I'm not going to do the same thing. Because those are raws and they would take longer in class for me to do because it would lock up the computer just a little bit. This is the blend that I did, Lexi, of your weevils or of your beetle. And look at it when we blow it up at 100%. Whoops, there we go. Right here. You see, we've got all kinds of detail in each one of those little holes. And then here's her pieces. So out of focus in the front, sort of on the legs, back up into the shell. And then here you can see where it's definitely out of focus. And then when you layer them all together, then they end up looking like that.
Kathy, would it mess up the stacking theory or whatever if you went ahead and did the AI on for sharpness topaz? Is it topaz
Yeah.
AI for sharpening? Oh,
it might. It might. I would do that after. I wouldn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't do anything to it before except basic processing.
okay.
So, you know, your clarity, vibrant, excuse me, your texture, vibrant, saturate, if you got to bring out the highlights.
Yeah.
And you do that on all of them simply by clicking, you know, all of them in either.
Would
your
you do the sharpen?
No, no,
Okay.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I would do that afterwards. Because it's just cutting little bits and pieces out of each photograph. So I wouldn't throw anything else in that algorithm right now. Yeah. So Lexi, you did a good job on that photo stacking because that one blended photograph ends up just having a lot of beautiful detail in all throughout that shell. So you did a good job on that one.
Will you have time to address how to work that content autofill later?
Yeah, you want to see it now?
If that works.
Okay, let's do this one because I'm ready on these. So let's do, there we go, tools, Photoshop, loading Photoshop layers. And by the way, I made these smaller so that they would work faster in today's class. So they're not the raws that she sent me. Highlight them all. Do edit, auto align, and just use this auto right here. And you notice that all we're doing is we're stacking them on top of each other because you'd asked me this other question. Here's if we were doing panoramics. So we would use any of these if we had taken a photograph and we were going to make it into a panoramic, but we just want to stack them on top of each other. So we use that auto. And then that's what it did. It just stacked. And now when we do edit, auto blend, let's do that content aware fill and see how much different it goes. And those of you that have done my textures class where we're talking about layers, notice that now over there on the right-hand side, it's now created an adjustment layer on each one of these photographs. And see what it did? It filled in all of the blank areas. So yeah, that auto content aware is a pretty good thing to have. So it filled in all those little blank areas. And now we can simply do a layer, flatten, deselect all of those little crawling ants. And then we see that we've got a little bit of problem right over here on the side that might be addressed. And the way that that can be addressed, by the way, is we can go figure out which one of the photos is that one. And I can copy that portion out of that photograph and copy it and paste it right here. So I'd go back to the photographs and find where that little offending area was. So I'm going to save this for you, Lexi, okay?
Alrighty.
And put it back in the folder. There you go.
Thank you.
Any other questions on blending? You can always watch that. Okay, so we did Marty. Rhonda, no homework on you. There we go. And Sarah, here we go on yours. Okay, Sarah.
I had a hard time getting the water to do what I wanted it to do because I think because of using the aloe plant and at the top is kind of cupped. So I didn't get the droplets until I thought to actually spray the underside of the leaf.
Okay, down here.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And you've got a real nice bubble over here too. Nice
yeah.
right here, yeah.
I was just trying to get them like dropping off to the bottom.
Uh-huh. And good background choice too, when we start talking about color wheel today. So it looks pretty. And then here's your unstacked.
Correct.
And I love your.
I'm sorry, because I just wanted to show this is what it looked like not being stacked.
And then here's stacked. You can see all the way down on the chrysanthemums over on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. Yeah. Makes a real big difference.
But I did have trouble keeping track of where I was because I think it was more difficult, maybe just because inexperience, I'm sure.
Uh-huh.
Because I wasn't simply going right to left or front to back. I was started from the top of the most high petals on the pink and tried to work my way down. And I'm not sure in retrospect that was the smartest way.
That's what I would have done. I would have started right here and then gone in the middle of the flower, end of the flower, and then over into the other ones all the way to the edge. That's what I would have done.
Now, in doing that, is it sufficient to do it just on one side, or would you do it like north, south, east, west?
I think it's sufficient to do it on one side.
Okay.
But then if it would depend on the depth. I have a friend who does cactus flowers and he will do like 130 slices.
Wow.
Yeah. To get everything. So I don't think more is any worse, especially if you're on tripod.
I will say that the first time I did it, though, I did lock up Photoshop because Dick had left a bunch of stuff open in it. And I completely locked it up.
Yes, and if you do too many raws, it'll kind of slow it down for a little bit. Yeah, yeah, it's very pretty though. It looks good, and I like your color choices. And then here's your water drop.
I had trouble getting the drops. I cleaned that glass 5 or 6 times. But anyway, I still had trouble getting the water drops the way I wanted them.
Mhm. It's very pretty though. And this water drop is really, really neat. This water drop down here is really neat. This
That one, not so much.
you could see that you could focus stack that one.
Yes.
And then this one, I like what you did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Uh-huh.
I think that the repeating pattern shows up well with this particular technique.
I think it shows up very well. Yeah. Yeah, that's very pretty. It's a really nice image.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job. Good job. There we go. And Susan, here's yours. Okay, Susan. Unmute.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Well, I used the cover of a journal for this. It had a lot of different colors in it, and it had sort of an intricate pattern, and I wanted to see if I could capture that, and in some elongate pieces and in some round pieces. I was just experimenting with different shapes and the colors and how each one showed up. The pattern is very, very, it was interesting to me that I could get the little pieces of that pattern to
Mhm.
show.
Yeah. It's interesting because you've got one thing going on up here and another thing going on down here. You can
Well,
almost look throughout there to find your picture.
That's true. I mean, each one was sort of an individual take on the pattern because the pattern was very, well, I can't because you're showing your screen, but I have the journal sitting right here, and it changes. It's not the same pattern throughout. So I was interested in the way
Hold
that
it
it
up to
picked
your,
up.
hold it up to your camera.
Oh, well, I know, but will it show? Well,
Yeah, there it is. Oh yeah, that's definitely an intricate pattern. Yeah.
yeah, it is. So anyway, I was just playing with it and to see all of the different outcomes I could get from all of these different drops.
That's really pretty.
Thank
There's
you.
a lot to see there.
Yeah, exactly. I can make a bunch of different crops of it and have different different pictures.
Yeah, very good, very good. And then here's your stack.
Okay, so this is the one. I didn't send all of the individual photos. There were 15 images in this stack, and it's the first time I'd ever done focus stacking. So I was kind of excited about it. But down at the bottom, you can see that there's a line running across there that's blurred. And I looked back at my first image in the stack, and that's not there. The front part of the shell is totally in focus, and I don't know what that is. I thought about, well, maybe I should do the pictures over again and then do the focus stack again. But I thought, no, if everyone gets to see this, maybe there's a reason why you need to make sure that the very front edge of your subject is further back if you're using Photoshop's algorithm. I don't know. I don't know if this is Photoshop or if it's something the way the Photoshop works in my particular laptop or what. I don't know.
It's just, we just get these, and I don't,
Okay.
And it's interesting because you can restack this and that'll go away.
Oh, really? Oh,
But
okay.
you might get another one somewhere. So it's simply one of those little areas that it didn't pick up. And if everything else looks good and you don't want to mess with it, this is where you would go into one of your pieces, find this area in focus in one of your pieces, open both of them in Photoshop, and on the one that has that part that you want to copy, then just in that photo, copy it, and then you can paste it on the shell picture, the blended picture, so you can paste your missed portion on the finished product.
Oh, okay. All right. So anyway, that's never having done this before. I didn't know if this was just the way it was and you just had to be careful about your front edge or what. But anyway, that's what happened to me.
And it's interesting in these because I get this on butterfly antenna or little teeny weeny pieces of a flower like the pestle or the stamen. And you have to just go in, find the offending, find where that is in one of the original photographs, copy it, paste it back on. And then
Okay. Yeah, so that, I mean, that's, other than that, I was really, I was satisfied with the way the rest of it came out.
I'm happy with it. Isn't it interesting that it has this, from the beginning, it has this little scar.
Yeah, and that's really, and the shell has that. I mean, you can, this is the shell.
Sure.
And you can see all of the little pieces of it that I had never noticed about that before.
And this big line right across through here, it makes you wonder, was there a big storm? It's like tree rings. What was it caused that big line, and what was it caused that little scar in that shell as it was growing? Yeah, it's neat.
Yeah.
It's neat. And that's what the macro photography does. It allows us to see things that we wouldn't normally see with the human eye.
Right.
Very pretty.
Yep, thank you.
Little shell, but very pretty.
Right. And I didn't realize that we were supposed to take pictures of all of the water drops. So that's okay. Go ahead to the next one.
Okay.
I had water dripping off of all of my plants inside and out. And I found a piece of, well, you kind of see it in the background in this photo because I just set it down, a piece of epiphyte of the Spanish moss, and I tried that and it wouldn't hold droplets at all. I mean, I had test drops all over everything, but I had a hard time, just like Sarah did with her aloe. I had a hard time getting drops to form on this succulent. I guess it's because of the smooth skin of succulents. It just doesn't hold drops very well, but I finally got one to form on this, and I decided this was my photo op, because my miniature roses have just begun to bloom, and I had cut one and brought it in to test drops on, and so it got in the background of this photo, and I noticed it, and I thought, wow, okay, this is my challenge. This is my one that I'm going to get a picture of, and I did a crop so you could see it more closely.
And then there it is.
Yeah.
Pretty.
Now
I love it.
this is again where you could do the whole focus stack all the way through here now
Right.
and put it all together. But that little jade plant, you notice that, it'll just hold that one little piece of water, and then as soon as it can, it's going to shed it off of there.
Right. Exactly.
And it's
Yeah.
really beautiful. And then you've got the rose in the background. Really pretty. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Questions on this, anybody? No? Did a good job on that one. Okay. I think I got everybody. Did I forget anybody? Anybody send homework that I forgot? No? Okay. And then, if you've got any more homework, just send it to me. We can always catch up. Okay, back to the program for today. Okay, so lesson 3. So we did our focus stacking. Now you know that one. So lesson 3 in this macro class on your handout. So I'm going to come back to that color harmony again. And for Lexi and Susan, sorry about this because we covered this last night in flower photography as well, but it's just important that we come back to it. So I'm going to come back to it again. This is from a website called Sensational Color. And if you haven't visited this website, you might want to. It's a beautiful site that this lady has designed for, excuse me, I'm trying to get you all positioned properly on my screen. It's a beautiful site that this lady has designed, and she talks about color harmony in terms of graphics art and design and that type of thing. But I think this is stuff that we need to know equally as well as photographers. So your color wheel, as we're going through it, people always look at the white area first in any photograph. And then barring that, they go to the yellows and the reds and the blues, which are the primary colors. So when we're designing our photograph, we have to be aware that the human eye is going to go to the white first, and then they're going to look at reds, yellows, and blues. And then, giving on your handout, we go to greens, oranges, and purples, and then we go to the red greens, we go to the orange blues, we go to the yellow purples. So as we are working on these macro photographs, we've got a very small space that we're dealing with, and that's where we have to realize what is going on with our colors and why the photo, either the photo works or it doesn't work, what's drawing our eye. That picture that Susan just did of the rose reflecting in that water drop, everything else was muted except the rose. And then that means that we're going into that rose first, and then we study everything else, which is exactly what we should be doing. So when we look at a subject to choose, then we should think about whether we've got color harmony going on here. So here we've got the yellows and we've got the violets, and those yellow and violets are right across from each other on the color wheel. So that means, yeah, this is going to work. By the way, sports team colors usually have complete color harmony in them. So if you want to think about what goes well together, think about sports team colors. So, you know, we've got yellows and greens, and we've got all these other colors that go well together. And usually sports team colors are designed exactly that way. But when we look at a subject that we want to photograph, then we need to think about where that color harmony is that's going with it. Primary colors next to each other are always going to look really good. So this is Yves Saint Laurent's garden in Marrakesh, Morocco. Everything is blue and yellow. Well, blue and yellow are primary colors. And if you look at them on the color wheel, they're triangular. So the yellow is here, the blue is here, and the red is here. So they're triangular, which means that they, you know, that's where the primary colors are on the color wheel. But anytime we see primary colors together, we're automatically drawn to it. So if we see something in nature or that we want to photograph that has those primary colors together, then we should immediately take notice of it, because it's got something that's going to work for us. This is triangular on the color wheel also, but this is a green and a yellow and a pink. And you notice that they're all in muted tones. So they're all not bright tones like the previous photograph, but they're in more of a muted tone. And then being a macro subject, we don't have anything in the background that's going to draw away the viewer's eye away from the butterfly. And then we've got that yellow and that pink together. So they're going to go together in harmony. So when we're looking at putting things together in our macro photography, then we need to think about, okay, so are we going to have color harmony? Here it's easy because it's nature, and usually nature has perfect color harmony in all of its subjects. So with this is the interior of a peony, but you see that we've got that pink and we've got that little bit of yellow, and then this puts it all together. So we've got to think about that while we're putting our pictures together. But then if it turns out that we're assembling objects and putting them together, then we need to think about that color harmony as well. And you notice here that these are all more muted tones. By the way, if you ever want to know what vibrance and saturation are of the sliders in Photoshop, this is vibrance. These are the muted tones, the undertones. These are the saturated tones. So the saturated tones are the bright, gaudy colors, and the vibrance tones are more the muted undershade tones, you know. So, but here there's nothing super bright. Everything's pretty much in the same tone. So that means it's going to fit better in the final photograph. So color harmony for you to think about with your color wheel. What color should my background be? that's where you go to your color wheel and you figure out what colors are going to go together. I have all kinds of backgrounds, by the way, and many times I use blurred photographs as backgrounds. You know how when you take pictures sometimes and they're just totally blurred, like you were walking along and you click the shutter 5 times and you didn't even know that you were doing that. So when I get those totally blurred photographs, I keep them and I save them under background. And then when I need a background, I can print them out on my printer. Not a good quality print. I just use a basic old ordinary DeskJet, and I can use those as backgrounds. So, you know, keeping that color harmony there. We have to think also of temperature of light. So sunlight on the Gerber Daisy over on the left, but if I use a halogen flashlight, so if I use an LED flashlight, you notice that now I've introduced a blue tone to that Gerber Daisy. So the temperature of light that we use in our macro photography is also going to play into what our pictures look like. And then our temperature of light is that white balance thing on the camera. So this is auto white balance. I'm going to talk about water drops today. This is auto white balance. And the same photograph, this is daylight white balance, the same setup. So one white balance gave me this, and one white balance on the camera gave me this. So I like to keep my white balance on my camera as an auto white balance. And if I want to change that white balance later on, I'm going to do it in Lightroom or Adobe Camera Raw, rather than changing it in the camera. But that's how much difference you have between 2 of the white balances on the camera. And the background in this case was a reddish and a bluish. And then you can see now that that red becomes solid blue. So it's interesting how much difference we get when we start getting under artificial light in our white balance. So once again, I just leave mine on auto white balance in the camera. Oh, and this is tungsten. So same background, same setup, same lights, but we just get 3 different photographs depending on what the white balance of the camera is. So when we're thinking about that temperature of light that we've got going on, then this is all cool tones. So here we're operating with those cooler colors as opposed to those brighter colors. So we can, and then here we've got a different color tone, temperature of light. This is a scorpion light. I grew up in the desert Southwest and we had scorpions. So we used to have to use a scorpion light, which is really just a black light that you probably might have played with somewhere in your lifetime, or danced under a black light. But the black light makes the scorpion fluoresce. And so that's how we could find scorpions in our shoes or scorpions under our beds when I was a kid. Luckily, I don't have to do that anymore. But, you know, in case you're in the desert Southwest, scorpion light comes in super, super handy for you. But you see how we can get a whole different temperature of light if we use that black light as opposed to a regular flashlight. Regular flashlight, scorpion would be flesh color as opposed to fluoresce. So that changing the temperature of the light, we can use gels. And this is 2 flashes, one on each side of the smoke column. And on the left side of the smoke column is a golden gel on the flash. And on the right side of the smoke column is a blue gel. So you can buy gels to put on the front of your flash. Some of your flashes might have come with a green hood or a golden hood. Anybody remember that with your flash?
Yes.
Yeah, so the green is for fluorescent light and the golden is to add some warmth. But you can also buy gels for your flash. And I have just bought a small pack of gels that I use. If I can remember, I'll show them to you next class because I'd have to go dig for them right now. And you use a rubber band to put them on the front of your flash. So they're just little gels with little tabs on them, and you just use the rubber band and put them on the front of your flash. So the flash on the right has a golden gel, and the flash on the flash on the right has a blue gel, and the flash on the left has a golden gel. So we can change the colors that we've got moving through our macro subjects. This is incense smoke. So one of the things you're going to do on your homework assignment is you're going to photograph smoke, and the best smoke you can get is from sticks of incense. You might stink your house up, but so get one. This is the same thing, black background, and using one flash on one side just to give a white color, and then on the right side using a blue gel to add a blue color on the right side of the smoke. And to photograph this incense smoke, because it could be part of your homework if you choose to use this assignment, we're setting up an artificial background. It's best to do this inside and turn off the air conditioner. If you keep the air conditioner on, the smoke won't form a nice little river. It'll just blow around. So it's best to turn the air conditioner off. Or if you want to do this out in the garage with no lights on, you could do that. Black background, or you could, excuse me, you can leave the lights on. Black background, black piece of black velvet, or you can use a black shirt or something like that. And then the smoke is coming up, and then I'm using one flash on one side and another flash on the other side. And the shutter speed in this case is 60th of a second. Or you can use 250 if you want to, anything up to about 200. So 60 to 200. And then set your f-stop at something like 8. Manual mode on the camera. But you can use your autofocus if you want to try to focus on the smoke. Now, and then what's going to happen, because you've set your shutter speed at say 200 at f8, your light meter's not balanced. That's telling your flashes to take over. So leave your flashes at ETTNL. You can do this with one flash. You can use your pop-up flash if you only have a pop-up flash. Or if you do have 2 flashes and you have cords, then you could put one on each side. Or if you have slave units, you could do it that way. I realize I've just gone into a lot of detail about complex flash work. Any questions on that?
What did you say to have the flashes on? ATT?
ETTNL.
Okay.
And then that's just telling the flashes to pay attention to the camera. That's all that's doing. So if your light meter is underexposed, it tells the flashes, take over, fill in the light for me. If you set your flashes on manual or anything else, then you're having to tell your flashes what to do. So just leave it where it is at ETTNL. And then if you do have a master button or a commander, as Nikon calls it, and a slave unit as everybody else, so your flashes can either be commanders or they can be slaves. If they are slaves, then set one of your flashes to slave and it'll be subordinate to the first flash. Nikon calls it commander, Canon calls it master on your master flash. Questions on that one before I leave it? Rhonda, are you asking questions? No, I saw you muted and your mouth was moving. You might be talking to somebody else. No, it's okay. Okay, good. Okay.
Kathy, are the flashes on a stand?
Yeah, and you know, in each case, every flash has a little.
Oh, yeah.
Don't lose
Uh-huh.
that book. And so these flashes in this case, one is on a cord and the other one is on its foot. And the one on a cord is the master and the one on the other side is the slave.
Okay.
Just in case you have 2 flashes. I have, by the way, I have a bunch of cheap flashes that are old, going back to the 90s. And those are the ones that I use for my, my slaves. Because they don't have to do a lot of work. They don't have to be real powerful. And these are the ones that I use as my slaves. So I pick them up on eBay for, you know, $100 or less. Or a friend might have a flash that they're trying to get rid of. So I have a box full of these that I use. If you're Canon, use Canon. If you're Nikon, use Nikon. Sony would use Sunpack or Sony. Olympus would use one of the other ones, or we do have some off-brand flashes today that work pretty well. Other questions on this one? And then degree of light. How much light do we want? This is once again that black background. And the black backgrounds that I have, by the way, one of them is a low pile velveteen black, 2 yards from the fabric store, not plush velvet, the velveteen, very, very small pile on it. And the nice thing about that low pile velveteen is it doesn't reflect any light. So we can use it as a black background and it doesn't reflect anything back to us. You can also use black fleece, and black fleece also doesn't reflect any light back at us. Those are nice. You spill anything on them, just throw them in the washing machine and wash them. So I have 2 yards of black fleece and I have 2 yards of black velveteen that I use as black backgrounds when I need them. Sometimes I take them outside and use them too. But you see between these 2 photographs, the degree of light. So in the one over on the right-hand side, you can see the bowl. The one over on the left-hand side, you can't see the bowl. Window light coming in from the left on the left-hand photograph, window light from the left on the left photograph, and then a reflector to light up the bowl. So then using a reflector to light that bowl up. So using how much light do you want on your photograph? How many of you all have a reflector? Yeah, good. These are nice gadgets to have. And the 5-in-1 reflector, the one that has silver on one side, gold on the other side, the 24-inch is the best one in my opinion. And then you just twist it, goes into a little case about so big, and you can store it away and bring it out whenever you need it for your next photo assignment. But the degree of light, the light coming through. Marty, this was done when we were at Trogan Lodge. Remember being at Trogan Lodge all those years ago? Yeah, this
Yes.
is those flowers in the garden. So this is the degree of light, the light coming through the throat, down the throat of that calla lily, and no other light in the photograph, just using that small little degree of light. So how much light are you going to throw on your subject or in the nature, capturing that light going straight down the throat of that flower? It's that degree of light, that interior reflected light as that Harvard agave is beginning to unfurl. It's that tiny little degree of light. How much light are you going to put on your subjects? And using these lights, by the way, or using this quality of light, we're going to take this into account when we're blending our photographs too. I'm going to talk about using off camera as well as reflected light. And this is a little teeny light. Let me see if I can get it to turn on. There you go. From LumeCube, LUMECUBE. And the neat thing about this is that we can use it as a continuous light instead of having to use flashes. So I'm finding that in macro, I'm enjoying this continuous light. Neat thing about this light too, let me flip it around, is I can change the, let's put it on my face. I can change the degree of light, making it super, super bright. Oh, where'd it go? Turned it all the way off. There we go. I can make, whoops. Let me get my fingers on this thing properly. There we go. Using the, are we low on power? I bet we're low on power. There's a little lever on the side where I can lower the power of the light, so I can make it just faint, or I can make it really strong. And I can also make the light gold, or I can make the light white. I can change the temperature of the light. So this is called LumeCube. It charges with an LED, with a USB. So that means you should be charging it and not forget about it, especially when you need it to demo something. So make sure it's charged up. Whoa, where did I go away? I lost something. Oh, I see what I did. I should be coming back in. There we go. So this is a non-blended photo of the cicada shells that I found one day on this stick outside. So these 3 cicadas had decided to emerge on this one stick. And then this is a focus stack of the same image. And I'm using that LED light to light up the subjects as opposed to trying to use a flash. So I'm putting that LED light where I need it to be. And by the way, as you are going through your pieces, nothing says you have to leave the LED light in the same spot. You can move the LED light around while you're shooting through your pieces. But here I'm using those LED lights to light up my subject, and here's the blended photograph when it's all finished. And then here is a blow up, non-blended, and then blended over here so that you can see the detail that we can get on these. And then using that constant light just helps out a tremendous amount so that we can see exactly how much light we've got going on. More on this, changing backgrounds. So it helps if you have different types of backgrounds you can use, and trying to find the background that's got the right color. That first greenish background to me, I think is totally weird. It just doesn't have, it doesn't have the right color to it. And then here's a little bit different one on this one. And then here's using the 85 RF lens. So just playing around with the different lenses and the different lighting sources. Now, Lexi and Susan have seen this in last night's class, but with your reflector, your 5-in-1 reflector, it has silver on one side and gold on the other side of the case. And inside the case, it has a diffusion panel. And then with this cactus, we have got a tremendous amount of shadows going all the way through the photograph. So it doesn't look appealing at all. But I'm going to use a diffuser and I'm going to use a reflector as I go through this series. So here's the gold reflector coming in, and you see starting out, watch the top of the tunas, these top area of the tunas right here. So here you see that they've got shadows on them. Bring the reflector in, and now we've got a little bit of gold going on them. Here's the diffusion panel from the center of the reflector, and now it softens the light. So now we're going to get in there, get close, and let's start working this photograph. We've got a diffusion panel over on the right. Add the gold reflector to the left. Move the reflector, the diffusion panel closer to add a little bit more light on the subject. The closer you get to it, the more light you get. Take the gold away and add silver. Leave the diffusion on the right side, silver on the left side. Take the diffusion panel, or excuse me, take the reflector away. Add the gold reflector in a slightly different angle. Diffusion panel still over on the right-hand side. Move the reflector a slight bit to a different one. See, the back pad is lit up, the back pad is not lit up. And then here is the diffusion panel, and finally getting the gold reflector where I want it to be. And in the finished photograph, I have the golden reflector on the left and the diffusion panel on the right. The closer you move the diffusion panel to your subject, the more of a kind of a dreamy light you get. It's a very, very soft light, but you hold the diffusion panel between your subject and the sun, and then that softens the light. So same thing, if you have a glare coming through a window, you use the diffusion panel close to your subject to get rid of that window reflection you might be seeing in a shiny object like your bubbles. So that diffusion panel inside your 5-in-1 reflector does a really, really nice job to get rid of glare and real intense shadows on your subject. Questions on using that? Playing around with that?
How do you hold those? two at the same time? Do you have stands?
It helps if you have somebody to help you. So yes, you know, sometimes you need somebody to help you. Sometimes you lean them up against something. Whatever you can do to try to get them where you want. And also the 24-inch is enough for you to handle by yourself. If you get the 48-inch, it's way too big and it'll get blown away in the wind. So the 24-inch, if you're going to order a 5-in-1 reflector, order the 24-inch, costs $29 on Amazon. And then, you know, yes, sometimes you gotta put them in a stand, sometimes you gotta hold them with a clamp, sometimes you gotta lean them up against something. And if you have an assistant, that'll help. But, you know, we don't always have assistants in what we're doing. Other questions on these diffusers or reflectors? So here's the gladiola. Don't even notice the sharp shadow until I point it out to you. But once you notice it, you can't turn loose of it. Put a reflector up there and now, or a diffusion panel, and now we can get rid of that sharp shadow. So that reflector diffuser just ends up being great help when it turns to trying to get rid of shadows on subject and soften the light. Questions on the reflectors, diffusers before I leave them? So also, I've already talked about it just a bit, but when we want the flashes to do all the work, set your shutter speed on 60, f-stop on 8, in the manual mode, the M mode, not aperture priority or shutter priority, the M mode. Focus on your subject, and then that flash now knows to go in and light your subject up. ETTNL, TTNL or ETTNL on the back of the flash tells the flash, go to where I'm focused and then turn off. Send light to where I'm focused and turn off. That's all you have to do. So the flash is not lighting up the entire room. It's only going to where it's told because that's where you focused. And then it's lighting your subject up. And it has a sensor in the camera that tells it when to turn off. So it's an easy system to use when you want to light up a very small object in a very small space. This is a monarch egg. So I'm only dealing with an area that's about so big. So I'm dealing with an incredibly small space and then asking the flash to light that area up. And then that's that black background. Here, by the way, is a thrip. Those little critters that live on leaves outside, little thrip. Yeah, once you see it, it makes you creeped out that you got them in your house, you know. And then here's at 5 times life size. And I talked about that last time in that lens that I use for 5 times life size. And this also is a focus stack. So this is 10 different photographs and using the focus rail because I'm at 5 times life size. So this is using that focus rail and then stacking them together because we're only dealing with a monarch egg, very, very small. So this is 5 times life size. But the flash is being used on this one as well. Here's another LED light that I would encourage you to look into buying. It's by Savage. And it's an LED video light. We use this in video photography, but it's the same as the little light that I just showed you from LumiQuest, except this is a little bit bigger. So this is about so big. I use this in night photography. I use this in a lot of macro photography because it's a continuous light. And now I don't have to set up my flashes for slaves and masters. The dropping water, this will not work because the dropping water, the water drops that I showed you, we need the flash to stop the action or help stop the action. These LED lights don't do that. They just light up. They don't stop the action necessarily. But this LED light, once again, it's rechargeable. It's going to cost you about $250. You can probably find an off brand if that's a little bit more expensive. But these LED lights come in super, super handy in lighting up our macro photography, our flowers, lighting up our different subjects. And once again, I use them for night photography as well. The neat thing about this one also is we can turn up the light, we can down the light, we can dim it, we can make it more golden, and we can make it more white. This light is also white balance corrected for your cameras. So when we get the gold, it's the right shade of gold, and when we get the white, it's the white shade, it's the right shade of white. So it's already been color corrected for your digital SLRs or your mirrorless cameras. Anybody have one of these continuous lights? Yeah, Susan, you've got one? Yeah. Other things that you use it for, Susan?
Gosh, I've used it quite a bit. If I need a light, I mean, it's my go-to light. It puts out, you know, I mean, and you can change how much light it puts out and everything. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's really good. I end up having 2 of these and then the small one that I showed you. So I have 3 now that I've just accumulated over the years. So when I start doing macro photography or setup photography, I'm positioning those in all different places. And you see the shadows it cast and you see the degree of light, just like you're going to see on the real photograph. So it makes it very nice for doing setups. Really, really nice. And just gives you that little bit of light whenever you need it. A little bit of light, more light, whatever you need. So it's a good light. And then I want to show you this. I did this as a commercial for one of the camera stores. And this is that LED. This is a GizTech FlashMate. And you can see here, you can see all the little tiny little bubbles. But if you put the diffusion panel in front of it, then you don't see the little teeny weeny individual lights in it. And then take away the diffusing panel from the reflector. And now you can see all those little individual lights. So there's times when we don't want those little individual lights reflecting. And that's when you can use that reflecting panel as an example of that. So these LED lights, really, really nice. Lots of fun to play with and work well. We can use these to backlight a subject, such as we've done in Costa Rica with the little frogs when we find them. So there's a light behind the banana leaf shining on the frog, and then we're on the other side of it. So you can use these lights for backlighting. They've got all different kinds of useful purposes. You can light up your subjects when we've got more shadows than we need. So think about the light that's falling on your subject and what it's going to do in your final output. Now, obviously, Iguana, I can't walk up to him with a big light and shine it in his face. But think about the light and the quality of light that we've got falling on our subjects. Macro light box. Anybody have one of these? Yeah, Susan, you've got one? Yeah, do you use it?
I have not used it that much. I find that I take pictures outside of the box more easily, but I guess I can look for opportunities to use it, but I haven't used it that much.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way. I bought it thinking I would definitely need it. It all folds up into a little case. You'll never get it back in the case, but it folds up, it scrunches up into the little case, and it comes and it has diffusion panels, top, bottom, side, and then the front is open. I thought I would use it also a lot, and I end up not. It's more trouble than it's worth.
I've thought about trying to use it maybe outside to block the wind if I'm taking photos and there's a light breeze or something, but I haven't tried that. And I don't know how hard it would be to hold it down and keep it from blowing away or what, but I've given that some thought.
We did that in the film days, and we cut the bottom out and we put it over the wildflower to block. Because in the film days, we didn't have the ability to raise our ISO. So if we needed to block the wind and diffuse the light, then we weren't going to have enough, ISO to be able to do things. So we had to do things on tripods and longer exposures and that type of stuff. So we used these a lot in the film days outside with the bottom cut out. They're pain in the behind because when the wind blows, then they blow over on you, and you've got to have somebody. And anybody else have one and they're using it? No, okay. And I had a student in class last time and she just keeps hers kind of on her studio platform where she does her studio work in her office. And she already has the lights all set up on the sides of it. So it's a little easier for her to use and she's doing amazing work with it. And it made me want to do the same thing. And then I tried it and I got tired of it and put it away. So it is there. It is, you know, helping you to diffuse the light. It helps if you've got overhead lights that are constantly shining on your subject. So if you were trying to do jewelry or things like that, it helps. So I've got canned lights in my office up here. And so I've always got one of those lights shining in any reflective surface. So it's one way you can get rid of those. But it is out there. It's called a macro light box. So you can use that. And let me see, to get rid of your shadows. Now let's talk about the dropping water, because this is something I would like you to try for your homework assignment. And this, once again, is a fun little homework assignment. It could drive you crazy, but it is a fun little homework assignment and you'll learn a lot from it. So the setup for this type of dropping water is right here. So you're going to use a table and you're going to put a glass dish. I use a glass pie plate. And you're going to use a glass dish and you're going to put that on your table. If you're going to use a pie plate, avoid the brand name that's usually stamped on the bottom of the pie plate, okay? And I always have my eye out for cheap glass pie plates that don't have an emblem on the bottom of them, because the expensive ones always have an emblem on the bottom of them. So you're going to use a glass pie plate or a glass bowl that you can, because you want light to be able to reflect through it. And then you are going to take your flash, and if you can, connect your flash to your camera with a cord. You can put your flash off to the side. And the cord that connects your flash to your camera is a very inexpensive gadget. So you might want to order one because you're going to need it anyway. And they don't cost very much money. And you don't have to necessarily go with top of the line by Canon or Nikon or Sony or Olympus, but get a cord that'll work.
Do they have a name? What are they called?
It would be
Just
an
a cord.
It would be an off-camera flash cord.
Okay.
And it has the hot shoe adapter for your flash. And then it has the cold shoe adapter for the bottom of your flash. So, excuse me, for the top of your camera. So it has the hot shoe adapter for the top of your camera. And then the bottom of your flash, it has the cold shoe adapter for that. And then remember the little stand that came with your flash? So then you can put that little stand on there too.
Does it have to be the cord, or can you use the little remote?
You can use the little remote, but for the dripping water, we need to get the flash off the camera because we're flashing the background, not the water.
Okay.
Does that help, Christine?
I guess so. I mean, I have a little thing that hooks onto the top of the camera. I forget what it's called.
Oh, to fire the flash?
Yeah.
Take the flash off the camera? Oh, yeah, do that. That's perfectly fine. Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's a flash controller. Yeah.
That's the word. I forgot.
Yeah, it's a flash controller and it's a small gadget about so big, but unfortunately it costs like $250. Did yours, Christina?
I have the Godox one, so
The Godox one. So Godox would be a lot cheaper. Do you remember how much yours cost?
I think it was like 60.
That's about right.
60 or 90. I don't know. It's been a while since I bought it. I don't remember.
And you put this on the top of your camera and then it'll fire your flash when your flash is off to the side. So whether you invest in a cord or whether you invest in a remote controller for your flash. So it's a remote control for your flash. So whether you invest in that or a cord is totally up to you, just depending on which way you want to go. Yeah, I like the remote controller because it's it's pretty cool. And then we can position the flashes wherever we need them, and we don't have to worry about how long the cord is. Yeah, thank you very much. That's good. And then we want the flash on the background. So you're going to put a piece of wrapping paper as your background, or if you've got a large poster board that's a certain color, you can use that as a background. Whichever one you want to use. I sometimes use wrapping paper, solid wrapping paper, and I just thumbtack it to the wall that's behind the table. Or if you have a poster board, you can use that. Whatever you want to use for your background. We're going to flash the background, and the light from the background is going to reflect through the water drop. That's how we get the water drop frozen in the water. So it's the light hitting the background and reflecting through the water drop. If we flash the water drop directly, this doesn't work. So we need to flash the background and the light reflect through the water drop. Shutter price, 60th of a second, f8 on the camera, and manual mode. And then that's going to tell the flash, just light that background up. And then the camera is going to catch the freezing of the water drop when it comes up at that 60th of a second. If it's not frozen enough, go to 200th of a second. And now the fun begins. You have to focus on the point where the water drop is going to hit the pie plate. So I put a pencil in the pie plate and I focus on the pencil. And I also make a mark on the bottom of the pie plate that I can see with my eye with a Sharpie, or you can put a little dot, of tape or something like that. That's your focus point. And then I'm going to hold my water dropper above that little point. I use a contact lens solution bottle filled with water, and that's what I drop my water with. Other people have constructed rails across the top coming down on PVC piping and suspending their water drop from the exact correct position. That depends on if you want to go to that much effort or not. Because once you start doing this, it becomes totally addictive. And then you're just going to want to photograph water drops for hours and hours and hours. Because you're going for the crown. Crown is when you've got shallow water. You can actually see the pie plate down there. You can see the scratches on the pie plate. Crown is shallow water. The higher water drop that I showed you before is deeper water. So depending on how deep your water is, depends on what kind of water drop that you get coming out. How high up your water dropper is, your squeeze bottle is, depends on the shape and pattern of your drops as well. So this becomes crazy. I use a remote control on the camera, and once I start dropping the water, I just fire. I just click, 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 because the flash has to recharge. So don't just fire like crazy because your flash won't recharge. I just go click, 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 click. And I'm hoping that we get the combination of the water hitting and the flash going off at the same time. So it's a 14, 15 pictures at a time, 20 pictures at a time, and then come back, see if you got anything, do it again.
What kind of light, what kind of room do you need to be in? Is it like in your kitchen with natural light, or does it need?
Yeah. You don't need a dark room. I just do it up here in the studio. Yeah. And I've got four windows up here. So it just, I just do it in a regular lighted room. I also have a glass table, and it's an old end table that I use now. And I have a glass table, and that allows some light to also come up from the underneath. So, and that's what I use. I think I told you all last class, that's what I use when I have the water drops. I put them on the glass table and put the reflective surfaces underneath that. Okay, questions on this setup? It's also on my blog.
What lens do you recommend?
What lens do you recommend? You want something that'll focus fairly close. So this is
like your 100?
Yeah, this would be my 100. This,
105?
yeah, and by the way, you are trying to focus on just that part of the water dish. So you don't want the whole water dish. You just want to focus on that part of the water dish. So this might even be your 100 or even 200 because you're trying to just focus on where the water is going to splash on your water dish. Other questions on this one? And Christina, you got to keep your baby out of this one. Yeah.
Well, it's my toddler. I was trying to think, how can I get him involved in this to like not knock it down?
That's right. Yeah, that's where you're going to have the trouble. There's going to be baby hands in this one. Yeah. Okay. For your optional is the incense smoke, and you're going to go get some incense, buy some incense. By the way, convenience stores have incense, just in case you don't know where to go look for incense. Convenience stores have incense behind the counter. And so then you're going to put your incense in an incense holder. No air conditioning can be turned on because you have to stay very, very still so that the incense smoke isn't being blown away. And then it starts forming those beautiful shapes and patterns. The incense is the only thing I've ever found that forms these great patterns. Artificial background, so black in this case. And then if you want to use side flashes, the side flashes will also help you out to light up the incense smoke. If you flash directly on it, it doesn't quite look as good. So use off to the side if you can. And once again, you can do that with the remote controller. You can do that with a cord. I'm using gels here. So I've got a gold gel on one flash on the left and a blue gel on the one on the right. You don't have to do that. And then with the flashes, this is a fast shutter speed. So your sync is either going to be 200 or 250. So go as high as your sync will let you go. That will be 200 or 250. The R5 Lynette is 200. Some of the other cameras are 250. And then set your shutter speed for that. And what that's going to do is and then F8. So F8, 250. And then use your flashes, and now the shutter's just going to go off, the flashes are going to fire, and that's it. And that faster shutter speed and the flashes are going to be what stops your smoke. If you tried to do this with just camera on tripod and no flashes, you're just going to get blurry smoke. So you're not going to get that definitive little patterns that you get in something like this one. And then another option that you can try is your good old pie plate, clear pie plate. And this is my glass tabletop. And then shallow water with a few drops of olive oil. If you use baby oil, it's too fine. If you use canola oil, it's yellow. So you want an oil that's more clear. So this is olive oil. And then I have stirred it up in the water, stirred the oil in the water up. Don't stir it up a lot because it'll take forever for it to form big balls again. Like when you emulsify salad dressing, we don't want to stir it that much. So just water, few drops of olive oil in it, take a toothpick or something and kind of swirl the oil through the water, and then start looking straight down with your camera through the viewfinder, through the lens or on the back of the camera, and watch and see if you can find that interesting pattern. This is the little light that I showed you, the LuniQuest light with its little sleeve on it. So it's this little light that I showed you, or you can use another light and put a diffusion panel over it. So this is light shining through the glass table, shining through the glass pie plate. So you can.
Is that from underneath it? Are you coming underneath it?
Uh-huh. Now, if you don't have the glass table, then suspend the pie plate on 2 cans. And then you can look through the bubbles going down to whatever pattern you put underneath it. So you could always suspend the pie plate up on 2 cans or 2 things that you can find that are fairly high up. I have some of those storage boxes in the cabinets that I could suspend the pie plate up on. You're not looking at a big area, you're looking at an area about this big. And then put your camera up on top. You might need to stand on a stool or else start on the ground as opposed to starting on the countertop. And then look straight down. Remember that flat to the film plane? So if the camera's not absolutely parallel to the pie plate, then you're going to get fall off along the edge. So oil and water. Got that one?
Did you add color?
Ah, now we've added color. So this is food color swirling in water. So a couple of drops of food coloring. Don't use the gel, use the regular traditional old liquid food coloring. This is just the yellow color and the blue color, and then I lightly swirl them. And once again, I'm looking through the pie plate at the swirls. And then let's go back to upright. This is a rectangular flower vase. So it's straight all the way up, it's rectangular. And I filled it with water and I have a white background. And I'm not using a flash at all on this one, I don't think at all. And then as I drop the food coloring into the water, I just fire away like crazy. So cable release in one hand, drop the food color in there, make sure you're focused inside the flower vase that's filled with water, make sure your focus is in the right spot. And then just fire away, take 10 or 15 shots as the food color moves through. Dump the water out, do it again. And that's a white background on that. Got that one?
Okay.
Okay, now this is the hard one. Remember, we're on lesson 3. So this is your showstopper for the 4th class. This is hard, but I've given you the instructions on the handout. And then also the instructions are on my blog, Kathy Adams Clark, and go to Bubble Photography. Just Google Bubble, don't Google, I'm sorry. Go to my website, go to my blog, completely start over. Go to my blog, and that's from my website. And then in the search engine on the blog, type in Bubble Photography, and you'll get this one. You'll get all the details on how to do this one. But this is glycerin and Dawn dishwashing detergent. So it's Dawn dishwashing detergent. And then it's got some drops of glycerin, and you can get glycerin at the pharmacy. It's used in scar care. So you can get glycerin at the pharmacy if you don't have some already. And you mix up, don't mix, I mean, be careful about mixing because you're going to form all kinds of bubbles in it. But you swirl together your Dawn dishwashing detergent and your glycerin. And you get your camera all set up and you get everything all ready to go. And you use a very small container, and it is good to use a very small container that is black. And so my very small container that is black is the lens cap off the back of your lens. So it's a very small container that's black. And you fill that with your Dawn dishwashing detergent and your glycerin. Get your black background. And now you take a straw and you start blowing a bubble, and start very slowly, and you'll notice that you get a really large bubble. The first time you do it, you're going to get a bubble and it'll pop. Don't worry about it. Put that straw in that solution again and blow very slowly, and you're going to gradually get a bubble that comes up. And the top of the bubble has this beautiful swirl of light all over it. You can see it with your eye. And now it's time to start photographing. And it's close up, of course. So this is, remember where we worked on getting as close as you can with your lens and how close your lens can focus. So this is using your lens that'll focus as close as you possibly can. And when you blow that bubble, you've got about a minute to photograph that bubble because of the glycerin and the Dawn mixed together. So that bubble will stay up there for about a minute if you're lucky. And then you can just photograph like crazy, click, 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 click to get your bubble. You'll notice that the colors on the top of the bubble start disappearing. And that's when the bubble is getting thinner and thinner and you know it's going to pop. So as long as you've got those colors on top, you know you've got a pretty good bubble going on there. And then the challenge is, how do you get rid of the glare of the lights on the bubble? How do you, where do you put the diffusion panel to not have any glare on it? What do we do to try to get that bubble illuminated? Do we use flashes or do we use available light? The bubble is moving, the colors on it are moving. And so we've got to use a fast enough shutter speed. So you notice we've got some noise here. We got to use a fast enough shutter speed to freeze the bubble as it's changing its shapes and patterns, and as the colors are changing their shapes and patterns. So this is a lot of work, but at the same time, once you get a photo of the bubble, then you're not going to want to stop. You can focus stack this if you're fast enough. So that would be where we put the camera on autofocus stack and fire away. And I've not yet accomplished that. But now that I'm looking at the picture, I'm ready to try it again. So getting to the point where we can get rid of the glare. If you do have a glare, maybe we crop it out. So don't panic about it. Fast enough shutter speed to stop the bubble, whether we use multiple lights or LED lights, that type of thing. But it's Dawn mixed with glycerin. Questions on that one?
So what is the proportion of Dawn to glycerin?
It's about 1 to 1.
Okay.
If I gave it to you on my blog precise, then let me see if I put it in your homework assignment. Did I give you precise? No, I didn't give you
I
precise.
don't think so.
No,
No.
I didn't put it on your homework assignment. So you know, it's kind of a 1-to-1, or you know, play around with it a little bit. You don't want any water in it for sure. But that glycerin is just going to make that bubble stay a little bit longer.
Okay, and it's just Dawn and glycerin, no water.
No water.
Okay.
That's right. Just Dawn and glycerin gives you a nice thick bubble. And then when you blow with the straw, you'll see that it just allows you to blow a big bubble. Now, there are some kids' bubble solutions out there that make really big bubbles. Lexi, you any help on that? Do you know any of the big bubble solutions that make big bubbles? No, but there are some kids' bubble solutions that make big bubbles. So if you want to try one of those instead of mixing the Dawn and the glycerin, you're welcome to try one of those. Christina, you got kids. Do you know any of those big bubble solutions?
No, it all gets just dumped out here. So I don't know. I've seen it, yes, and I've bought it, but I have no idea if it actually works. So.
Yeah, okay, on this one anyway. And you know, it's the same thing. I've seen it. I know that those big bubbles are out there. You know, the bubble solution for the big bubbles are out there. This thing does not work on the cheap bubbles because they just pop too fast. So that's where the Dawn and the glycerin comes in, because the cheap bubbles that children would use with a little blower, those just pop really, really fast. This gives you a bubble that stays a little bit longer. Here's from previous students.
Wow.
So that's the oil and water through the clear pie plate with some sort of colored thing underneath it. Oh, you know what this was? This was the iPad. And the background is the iPad and it's turned to patterns. So it's just the iPad shining up through the pie plate. And here's another one, and this is wrapping paper. And you notice completely flat to the film plane, so no falling off. So the tripod camera is looking straight down, absolutely level. Got, you know, great shadows up in here, I mean, patterns up in here. And throughout the entire picture, you've got all different kinds of other colors that are showing in there. Here's another one,
Mm.
same background. Here's another one. And then here's the incense smoke and then lighting up the neat vase. So using the LED light to light up the neat vase so that we get the incense smoke coming out of the neat vase. And then more bubbles and water. More bubbles and water. Or excuse me, oil and water. Oil and water. So just giving you an idea of what some other people have done. Here's a splash with the crown. And you got to make sure that you focus right on where the water is going to drop so that you can get that crown to show up. And then here's my last bubble attempt. And you see that I've got the reflection of the lights. Yeah. So play around with this. Oh, there it is. 1 part Dawn, 3 parts water. Susan, there is water in there. 1 tablespoon, and then 1 part Dawn, 3 parts water, and 1 tablespoon of glycerin. So the key is the tablespoon of glycerin. Don't put too much water in it. Don't put too much Dawn in it.
Okay.
So you can do a homework assignment of at least 3 of these if you would. So choose 3 and you can use it. You can do any one of them. If you want to do all of them, then you can. This is the last time that we'll show your work in class. So you can photograph the water dripping into the pool, photograph incense smoke. If you don't have any flashes, food color swirling through water, photograph the oil in the water. And remember that olive oil, better quality olive oil works better than canola oil because the canola oil is yellow. And then try the bubble, 1 part Dawn, 3 parts water, 1 tablespoon glycerin. And once again, I use the body cap of from a lens and use a straw to blow the bubble in the solution and then photograph the bubble. Questions on homework? I can't wait to see what you do. And by the way, in the creative retreat that I teach, where we go away for 3 days, these are the type things that we do in the creative retreat. So we get to do them together as opposed to you having to do them by yourself. But this one you got to do by yourself. Questions on homework? No?
No?
Okay, I'm here all week. So if you've got any questions or you get any frustrations or you get totally stuck, email me and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Or if you need any, you need any assistance, then if you just need a simple, I'm driving myself crazy, then it's okay. Go ahead and send me an email and I'll calm you down. Remember, you got to work on these things. And then I look forward to seeing your work next week. Okay.
Great.
Questions, comments on that? No? Okay. Thank you for a good class. I'm going to stop sharing this one. And then I will stop the recording and I will share that recording with you all tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye. Thanks for class.
Okay. See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.